Hi there, I'm Peter Millard, and in the workshop this week, well, I'm going to take you through the process of how I organise myself when I go out on an install. That's coming up next. So yes, installations, they can be a little bit fraught. It's so easy to muck a job up royally just by leaving something simple, something seemingly trivial behind. So the temptation is to take absolutely everything with you, but that breeds its own problems. You end up dragging the kitchen sink around as well. I've got an install coming up soon, and it's one I showed some of the drawings. If you saw the no video, you might have seen some of the drawings for it, some of the little sketches that I had. It's a study spare room refurbishment. It's got a couple of wall cabinets, a tall end cabinet, another base and tall cabinet at the other end, and a bed base in between. And these are the working drawings for it. It's not a particularly complicated piece, but there's lots of sort of moving parts within it and lots of potential for screw-ups, frankly. And the way I go about making sure that I've got everything that I need and not much that I don't is just by going through the job a piece at a time, as if I was actually doing the job. So in my head, I go through it. What am I going to do first? What am I going to do next? And that kind of thing. And I allocate tools to each task. So I know going into this room straight away that the first thing I've got to do is get the skirting board off the wall that the bed base and most of the cabinetry goes against, because I want that as flat back against the wall as possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off the skirting, and I know that to take the skirting off I'm going to need a multi-master, multi-tool type of thing. I'm going to need my vacuum and a dishwasher, apparently. Oh, club hammer, that's what it is. Yeah, okay, club hammer. So I know on this list that those are the bits that I'm going to need. After that, well, there's not much else. I do have a couple of sustainers with the location kit in it, the installation kit in it, and they kind of go with me everywhere. So it's a good general purpose toolkit already, but it's good to be able to specify tools for individual tasks. And in this list, again, the next one up is the right-hand side cabinet. That's a tall, deep cabinet. So I'm going to need my drills for that there in the kit. I'm going to need my domino connectors for that, because I'm using the knockdown fittings to put that together. So that's in as a separate line item. I'm going to need some glue, I'm going to need screws, I'm going to need a stapler to get the back on, and I need the little infill pieces to go around the edge, because again, I'm going to build this within the skirting board at that end, because there's a desk that goes alongside it, and I want to make the desk as deep as possible, because these cabinets are only 475 wide, but they're 960 deep. So those are all on the list as separate line items. If they come up again, I put them down and I assign them to the task, but I don't put them in as a separate line item, because they're already accounted for. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the bed base, the bed sides and the back together. And I'm not going to do the whole bed, because I want to be able to get into the floor space that the bed's occupying to be able to fit the wall cabinets that go above it. But I want to put the base in so that I know how wide I need to allow for the end cabinet to go in. So again, just the thought process is how I'm going to do the job in actual time. So skirting board off, right-hand cabinet constructed and in, bottom of the bed base, the bed back and sides in place. Then I can put the left-hand tall cabinet in place. That gives me the position for it, and then the wall cabinets to go on. So bed sides and back, I'm going to need the domino connectors and the drills again. They've already been accounted for. The left-hand cabinet, I'm going to need the glue, drills and screws, already accounted for. I might need a socket extension. I've an idea. The room was full of stuff when I went and had a look, and I have an idea that there's a socket on that wall somewhere. There didn't appear to be sockets anywhere else, so I suspect there's one on that wall. So that's either going to have to be set into the back of the base cabinet on the left-hand side, or I'm going to have to run an extension around to where the desk is around the back of the cabinetry. The room was full of stuff. I didn't get the chance to do a full survey on it. This is often the way. So again, I've got that marked down on the list as something to watch out for, so I won't forget that, because there's always an awful lot going on every installation. For the wall cabinets, I'm going to need my drills again. It's an internal wall, so I won't need a hammer drill or anything, but I will need plugs, and I will need my props, my sort of lightweight props, to help. I'm doing this install on my own, so I won't be able to hold the cabinet, the double cabinets. I won't be able to hold them on the wall and drill through the corner plates. So I need the props to get them up into position. So I need to remember those, and then I'm going to need some carcass bolt connectors. Probably know the sort of thing, sometimes called interscrews, the ones where you've got a sleeve and a screw that goes into it, so it sort of pinches the cabinets, carcasses together. So I'll need those between the two wall cabinets and also between the two end cabinets of the wall cabinets. So I've got to get those, got to make sure they're there. For the bed front will go on next. I need the domino connectors again, drills and screws, they're all accounted for. I'll also need the pin gun, which is different to the stapler, to put the base in, because the bed's going to have a base in it, because there's storage underneath it. And that will need to be sort of just pinned in place. Then there's a desk that goes partly into the cupboard and partly against the wall across the end. For that, I just need drills and screws. Again, they're all accounted for already. I'll need to make sure that I've got the battens for that job, because there are battens inside the tall cabinet and on the wall that will support the desk. Also make sure I've got my hole saw, because there's going to be a cable tidy access hole going through the desk somewhere. I don't know where yet. I can't pre-drill it because the client needs to decide where. I'm going to need my track saw and my rail, because the desk has to be trimmed to fit within the cabinet, but then scribed to the wall as well. So I'll also need my planer. And then other bits and pieces. The cabinet doors will need tweaking, and the bed doors as well. So just make sure I've got spare hinge plates and screws, just in case something goes awry along the way. I'll need my track saw for those, and the stapler for the backs. I need a jigsaw. That's for another part of this job, which is there's a little cabinet that needs a cutout doing. I also need my glue gun, hot glue gun, for the bits of infill. And then things like screws and plugs, I actually list those out. I've got in my install case, I've got a good general selection, but ones that I know that I'll need specific to this particular job will be things like the wall cabinet. So they're going to need something like 4x50 or 4.5x60 screws and plugs to attach into the wall. I'll need the big cabinet's going to need 4x40 Spax M-cut screws for that. The battens for the desk, I will need 3.5x30s when it's inside the cabinet, and I'll need 3.5x40s where it's on the wall. There's a piano hinge, little continuous hinge in the left-hand cabinet. There's a little sort of lift-up seat section, and I need some 3x25 mil, so really skinny little screws to go in there for the piano hinge. The corner plates, I'll need the 3.5x25, I've forgotten what they're called, tongue tight or lost tight, 3.5x25 lost tight, and also need the interscrews, these sort of sleeved connectors for the carcasses. Again, I'll put all of those into a separate case, into a separate carry-on sustainer thing, so they all go together in the same stack. And once I've got all these little bits and pieces itemised, then I can actually gather them together and make sure that I'm not missing anything else obvious. The tools and things, I've done it enough times that I've got the kit that I need for general purpose use all together. But it's all these little fiddly bits and pieces that are easy to leave behind, but that would really mess up the job if you did. So yeah, that's how I go about making sure that I don't leave stuff behind, or that I don't take too much with me. Literally just going through the job one stage at a time in the order that I'm likely to do the work, and just assigning tools to individual tasks and making sure that they're on the list and that I've got everything that I need and not too much more. Again, it's so important not to leave those silly little seemingly trivial things behind. This particular job is only a couple of miles away, but that's still over an hour's round trip to come back here to get something if I do leave something behind. So it could take a big slice out of your day and really best avoided, especially this time of year when you're under the cosh a little bit on timings. That's how I do it anyway. If you've got a better way of doing it, let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.